Okay, we're live.
Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome back. There's obviously been an awful lot of activity today, and here taking time away from their very uh, hurried efforts right now are Chief Robert Sapien of our San Jose Fire Department, as well as Lee Wilcox, who's the head of our Emergency Operations Center. We're going to go straight to you, Chief, because I know you need to get going soon to get right back into an operations meeting. Do you want to give us a bit of an update about where we're at now and particularly what we're concerned about in the hours ahead?
Right. So I think what is happening now can be described by a description of what led to where we're at today. So last Saturday night and Sunday, as everyone remembers, we had the remnants of what was Tropical Storm Fausto breaking up and pushing north, while there was a high pressure system over the western states kind of keeping some heat in. And so the result of that combination of heat and moisture and the storm pushing through was we had some lightning that ignited some fires that I'm sure everyone is aware of now. That includes fires that are around the area of Salinas to our south, certainly fires in Santa Cruz County, and the one that is most concerning to us here in San Jose is the Santa Clara Lightning Complex, which includes 3 zones of fires, and those are the Deer Zone fires, which are north of our immediate concern, the Central Fire, which is the Calaveras Zone fires, and then the Canyon Zone fires, which are the sort of the main body of Mount Hamilton moving south towards Henrico Park.
Okay. And while you're talking, I'm going to ask Mackenzie if she could put the map up for us to look at as you're walking us through this, Chief.
Yeah.
So
So
we're looking now at the Calaveras and Canyon complexes.
right, and this map, for folks who were watching yesterday, this map looks a little different than it did yesterday. These 2 fires have merged into one main body of burned area. And if you look at this map and it looks a little bit like a Y, that area that says Ohlone would have been what was the Calaveras Zone, or still is the Calaveras Zone fire that is now merged into the Canyon Zone fire. Some things for the week of fire as we were monitoring. Most of the growth and movement was to the south and to the east, although in the last 24 hours, winds shifted almost in the opposite direction and began to slow movement to the south and east and really become more of a concern on the north end of the fire. And so now we're concerned about a potential repeat of last week's storm push. So this time it's the storm is called Genevieve that pushed north and is breaking up and bringing the potential of more dry lightning. And I think a little more certain is we're going to see some increased wind activity, estimated in the 40 to 60 mile an hour gusts, which can really create some erratic fire behavior. If you look at the map, the left side, what is the western front of the fire, that has been what has been most concerning to us here in San Jose, and particularly the Calaveras Zone fires along the border of San Jose. And so if you've been paying attention to evacuation orders, you know that unincorporated areas east of San Jose city limits were in the under the evacuation order throughout this time. And so we've been very carefully monitoring that fire line on the western side. My closer looks at maps that show line construction has shown very good progress along that western side. I will caution that with active fire in the area and with the high winds coming, while we do have a pretty high confidence in those lines, we are maintaining a very high level of vigilance to make sure that we're monitoring conditions throughout the wind event and that we're prepared to respond to any breakouts of fire there. So our most concerning period right now is in the next 24 hours or so, as we watch this front move through And it is during that time period that we'll have the most resources available and committed to this weather event. And as we move through, we hope that we will find that we just simply overstaffed, and that was the end of it. But certainly we're going to watch conditions throughout the night.
Okay, we're going to stay on this frame for just a moment. I want to orient everybody to this map so they understand what they're looking at. On the left side edge where you see all the roads, obviously 880 and 680, that would be Berryessa area at the top of the map as you head down. Then it would be Alum Rock, and then as you go further down into Evergreen. So now in the fire zone area, we have different colors. If you could explain again the difference between yellow, orange, and red.
Yeah, so a few things happening here. If you look closely at the map, there's a yellow line around. That is the essentially the shape of the fire involved and burned areas that were previously established, and then the yellow gridding on top of that is sort of the burned area. Then you look at some colors ranging from yellow to orange to red. Those are an indicator of some intensity of fire activity, and the red areas would be the hottest. Now, what's important to know, in some cases, that's just fire doing what it does. In other cases, that shows up where there is active firing, intentional firing by crews that is intended to create a line that creates a more predictable environment for fire behavior. But overall, this would be a sort of a historical overlay of the fire's movement, and then a more current overlay of fire activity.
So as we look at this, I know for some period of time in the last couple of days, what was happening over in Grant Ranch was a concern. And it appears, at least from looking at the map, as though CAL FIRE and the county and San Jose Fire have done an excellent job in addressing the threat over in the Grant Ranch area. Is that fair to say?
Right. So, yeah, fire did get across Highway 130 or Mount Hamilton Road and move into the Grant Ranch area. And one specific day of operation held the objective that the fire, we wanted that fire stopped at Grant Ranch, and there was a successful operation there, and that is held. So that was good news for us at the end of that workday.
So that's good news for all of our residents in the villages and the Evergreen area, because obviously on the other side of the mountain there is where they live. If we move up a bit, though, where the problematic red area is, it says Alum Benchmark. I believe that red area is just on the ridge that would be facing Sierra Road. If those who are familiar, Sierra Road, that would be the ridge that you would see on just the other side of the valley. And that appears to have stayed red for some time. Is that of particular concern?
It's been an active area. I would say that it's gotten a lot of attention in the last 24 hours. And so I'm not hearing through my sources that we have a heightened concern, but certainly we've been watching that little area sort of continue to burn with some heavy fuels there.
Okay. And at this point, is there any recommendation to change, or has there been any change in the line demarcating where people should be evacuating?
So this afternoon, I believe at 3 p.m., CAL FIRE did release a revised evacuation map and directions. A lot of residences that were impacted were south of San Jose, into Morgan Hill, and a little further south. And within San Jose, still the direction for the most part of east of city limits is still under evacuation order.
Okay, so at this point, still no evacuations of residents living within the city limits of San Jose. Is that fair?
That is fair, yeah.
Okay, and Chief, if you could just remind us, I know that there are folks here watching who are outside the city, and certainly in the Morgan Hill area where there is now a new evacuation order in several neighborhoods. I have heard repeated concerns from CAL FIRE about what happens when folks are not evacuating and they're told to evacuate. You just explain a little what the challenges are for firefighters in that situation?
Right. So an evacuation order is important to the managers of the fire for a few reasons. One is clearly if they assess that there is some level of risk that fire will reach those residences that are under order, then certainly it's prudent for the sake of safety for those individuals. And those orders are not simply put out without a lot of thought and a lot of expertise. But we do unfortunately run into situations where residents do not want to leave. They believe that they can defend their property, or they have doubts about the evacuation order. The reality is that we have a really hard time as firefighters keeping our attention on the firefight when we also have to be wary of residents that are in those areas who may become trapped and may need our assistance. And so not only is it dangerous for the residents, but firefighters will put themselves in harm's way to protect other lives, and it will take them away from their firefighting objectives. So critically important that when those orders come, that these residents comply. We're hopeful that it's not for a long period of time, but certainly we benefit greatly from having those areas evacuated completely.
Thanks, Chief. I'll ask Mackenzie if she can pull out a little bit on the map so we can get a broader view. Anything else along the eastern side of the city that is the western edge of the Calaveras fire that is of particular concern or note for you before we move on to the other side of the valley?
No, I think we've been monitoring. So a few things. I think it's really important to know that we are under a red flag order. And that means that we can expect extreme fire behavior during these periods of fire weather watch. And so not only are we concerned about the fire that is already working in the Calaveras zones and the Canyon zones, but any new fire can be challenging for us as well. And so to answer your question directly, I don't have any targeted concerns about fire line on the Calaveras or the Canyon, but we are hyper vigilant right now knowing what kind of fire conditions we can be presented with if even a new fire were to break out.
And that's because both of wind gusts and I understand potential lightning storms as well. Is that right?
That's correct. We're watching for what kind of lightning activity we can have, and then certainly high winds can present hazards to utility equipment and can cause fires in other areas as well.
Okay. I know many of us have friends and family also who are evacuating on the western side of the valley, or I'm sorry, to the west of our valley, I should say, in that Santa Cruz CZU complex. And you want to sort of give us an update of what we know at this point about that complex that is predominantly in Santa Cruz County.
Right. So we know that they're going to be subjected to the same weather patterns that we're watching for here. And because they are on that coastal front, they could get even stronger winds. And so we do need those residents who are in evacuation zones to make sure they heed those evacuation orders. Those folks who are in warning areas should be fully prepared to evacuate should orders expand. And I think that it's critically important that everyone stay informed, especially through the night hours as the situation unfolds.
Okay. And this unusual weather pattern that we're going to be seeing, the gusts of winds and potential lightning storms, how long, based on what you're hearing from National Weather Service, how long do you expect that to?
So our weather watch is going to be through the afternoon tomorrow. And so the heart of this is going to be through the night tonight. Hopefully we'll have a good sense of what's going to happen in a more refined forecast. But for now, we're really going to be on watch till the afternoon tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks so much, Chief. And Chief, I know you need to get going in a few minutes. I'll just ask Lee, did you want to jump in with any additional updates?
Just related to the fire or the weather, we did get an update about 15 minutes ago from the National Weather Service and the county's Emergency Operations Center. So the chief is absolutely right on the weather watch. That initial round of lightning and thunder looks like it's going to go through our area anywhere between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning. It does look like it is veering off a little west, so that is better news for the fires in east of our valley, but worse for the fires west of our valley. What the National Weather Service is still trying to figure out is the direction of that wind and kind of the initial impact of that wind after that first wave. So our fire department and the EOC will be closely monitoring the winds after that initial period.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lee. All right. I know that we undoubtedly have many questions that folks would like to ask. Please do type your questions into the Facebook page, and so we can offer them. I think our chief has about 3 or 4 minutes left with us, and he can answer a few, and Lee will then subsequently. I will provide an update to everybody about emergency accommodations and for folks who are currently being evacuated. We'll provide all that information shortly. But Mackenzie, if there are questions separate from the evacuation issue itself that we can raise with the chief, why don't we do that while the chief is still on the line?
Yeah, absolutely. And just a reminder, the staff will follow up and answer the questions we don't get to, since we do have a limited time.
Okay.
So this is coming from one viewer. He says, thanks for doing these updates. What's the status of the Coyote Fire by Morgan Hill? CAL FIRE and SJC haven't posted an update since Friday. Is it out?
So the Coyote Fire, we did have a fire break in the middle of the valley, just south of Metcalf Road between 101 and Monterey Road. That fire is contained. It did have an extended period of what we call mop up, which is how we make sure that the fire is completely out. It was, if you know that area at all, there's quite a bit of different types of hazards, a little bit of terrain, a lot of vegetation fuels, percolation ponds that make access difficult. But the fire is out. It did total 143 acres. We've monitored from the moment we responded until currently. We still are keeping an eye on it, but overall, we're in good shape at that fire.
Great work from our firefighters there. Thank you, Rachel, for jumping in with questions. Rachel, is there maybe one last question for the chief before he heads off?
Yeah, this I think is important. Given current conditions, how much notice can be expected in case of an evacuation warning or order?
So as we move through the evening and we get a sense of how the fires will behave given the wind conditions and whether or not we see any new fires from lightning strikes, the notice can be quite short. We will be using multiple means if necessary to notify, whether that's through digital devices or manual knocking on doors or audible devices as well. But I would caution that as we get through this period of time with high winds and possible lightning, that notice could be quite short. That said, with the fires that have been in place, because there is an established command post managing the SCU lightning complex fires, there's a lot of expertise involved that includes meteorologists, fire behaviorists, and they are really out ahead of working. In fact, in this last round of updates, it was over 24 hours of thought and discussion about what a revised evacuation order might look like based upon anticipated conditions. And so the answer to your question, I suppose, is a bit of both. Day-to-day operations for an established fire, you can get quite a bit of time, but in dynamic conditions, as a storm pushes through, we might have to do some more rapid evacuation.
Chief, thank you so much for all that you and your very hardworking crews are doing right now for us. We know they're operating on very little sleep. Thank you, and please pass our gratitude along to the women and men of our fire department, the county, CAL FIRE, and everybody else who's out there for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Lee Wilcox, thank you so much for joining us. And as we jump in with more questions, Lee, I just wanted to get some immediate information out there for anybody who is either evacuating or thinking about evacuating. First, in terms of having your bags packed, I think clearly the chief indicated we're in an unpredictable situation right now. And so it does make sense if you live along that eastern edge of our city, you're in Berryessa, you're in Alum Rock, you're in Evergreen, points south of Evergreen. We know that there are some edges there along Basking Ridge, for example. Have your bags packed, ready to go. And there are several resources online that can help there. NPR.org has a great site as well as I believe we have some information on our Silicon Valley Strong .org website that can give you more information about what to take care of and what to focus on as you're preparing. In terms of evacuation options, Lee, correct me if I'm wrong in this. First, I know that in Milpitas and in Morgan Hill, there are accommodations that are free for evacuees at the Milpitas Library and in Morgan Hill at Sobrato High School. There are also, for those who are able to get accommodations through Airbnb, they have a program called Open Homes that they actually launched here in San Jose. It became a nationwide program that provides free housing for families who are evacuating, but it requires host homeowners or apartment owners to open their homes. So in other words, Airbnb will waive the fees. And so we encourage folks, please, if you are in the Airbnb network, or maybe you're not and you just want to help a family who's evacuating, please go online. We have tweeted out and posted on Facebook the link to get to Airbnb, the Northern California Open Homes program. That is an easy way to really help the community simply by opening a spare apartment or a home that may be vacant now to a family in need. And then finally, San Jose Cares is an effort of more than a dozen hotels in San Jose that have dramatically reduced their prices to, I believe most of them are $89 or $99 a night for any family that wants to take advantage of a hotel. I believe they are also taking pets in those locations as well. And they'll keep that rate in place as long as families need it. We're grateful to all those hotels who stepped up through Team San Jose. Again, all this information can be found on SiliconValleyStrong.org. SiliconValleyStrong.org. Lee, did I miss anything on that?
No, I think you hit it great, Mayor. I would also just mention, especially for those in the Evergreen area or anyone on the east side, the Evergreen Community Center continues to be an information center and kind of a point of contact for folks if they are to be evacuated or if they just want information now. I would encourage, all residents in those communities tonight to remain, have their ringers on loud. I will say the city has been partnering great with CAL FIRE and the county. And as the chief mentioned, we have a variety of possible notification methods in place: cell phone, long range acoustical devices, as well as knocking on doors and evacuation plans in place if it were to happen. But again, for those of you to stay alert and be ready tonight in case anything does shift in the weather pattern. And then lastly, if there are any additional evacuations that would need to take place, the city does have additional locations that we would start sharing on social media, Mayor, whether it be on all social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, as well as sanjoseca.gov on the emergency banner on the top. We will continue to update that through the night as anything changes.
Okay, so to summarize, at this point, there are no new evacuation orders for residents within the city of San Jose. There are some in Morgan Hill and Point South. So we encourage folks to please heed those evacuation directions and leave exactly as the authorities have instructed because it's important for your safety. It's also important for the firefighter safety. And for the rest of us, particularly those who live in many of those neighborhoods along our eastern edge, from Basking Ridge all the way up to Berryessa, keep the bags packed. We are going to be notifying folks through all electronic means, through extended loudspeakers, knocking on doors, through every means we know of to ensure everybody knows if in fact there is an evacuation order. Let's go to our next question. Rachel?
Yeah, thank you. Just a reminder to folks that CAL FIRE just put this out today too, is evacuation centers are not accepting donations. They are not set up for that to donate at American Red Cross. And we have those links on Silicon Valley Strong.
Thank you for that. I should also add another great option is the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, which has opened up a fund to serve wildfire victims. So Silicon Valley Community Foundation, that's SCVF, or svcf.org, I believe. Thank you, Rachel.
No problem. And it would be good, this is a question from a viewer, is where can I make sure that I'm registered to get emergency notifications via text or call?
Great.
It's a great question. And if you go to the city's main website, www.sanjoseca.gov, and go to emergency notifications and click on any of the languages that you need, there's an opportunity to sign up for Alert SCC on the front half of that page. And that's where you would get your first alert from the city or the county.
Yeah, or you can go direct to alertscc.org. Is that right?
Yes, you could do that as well.
Okay, great. So either one will get you there, alertscc.org, or go to the San Jose website. It's got lots of information, sanjoseca.gov.
All right, one user wants to know, is there a need to activate San Jose CERT to help right now?
So parts of San Jose CERT have been alerted, especially those in the East San Jose, the villages, they've been made aware, and they are currently helping our emergency operations center. But we do have many of our CERT volunteers on standby through the night and tomorrow based off of how the event transpires.
Excellent.
Great. One viewer wants a reminder of the colors on the map and also what the map website address is.
Yeah. Well, how about if I cover the colors and you find the website, Lee? I believe
Sure.
What you saw on the map there, the yellow areas really just define the scar area where the fire has been. Those are burned out areas. As the colors get to orange and red, that's greater intensity of fire activity. Obviously, the red is the fire that is still very active. And it looks like it's caltopo.com. Is that right, Lee?
That is true. And so that's the fire map where it shows it's using satellite imagery to show where the fire has been and where it's hottest. If I were to point, what we are advertising, and the website address is quite long, so I would send you back to the city's main website, sanjoseca.gov, and there is a link to the City of San Jose and the SCU Lightning Complex evacuation map as well. And so the yellow areas on that map are warning areas, so you need to be ready and you're in a warning zone. The red areas are orders. You should leave those areas if you are in those locations right now.
Okay, so let's do this slow here. We're going to go all the way back. Mackenzie, if you could take us to the first page first. When you go to the City of San Jose website, that's sanjoseca.gov, you'll see that big red bar on the top. And Mackenzie is now clicking through to the English section here. It's in 4 languages. And you can then find the link that's appropriate. There's a wildfire emergency notifications page, which I believe Mackenzie's clicking now. And that will give you the verbal updates. And then there are also maps there.
There's a evacuation map there, and
Okay.
also a link to a sign up for Alert SCC if you wish.
Okay, so this is a different map than the one we were looking at. This is specifically identify where the evacuation orders exist. What is different about this map from yesterday is there's a pink area down in the Morgan Hill area, which was previously yellow. That was a warning area. It's now an actual evacuation area to the south of the city, south of Basking Ridge area through Coyote and onto Morgan Hill in the foothills just on the east side of 101. Okay, so that's our current evacuation order. It does not currently penetrate any of the incorporated parts of our city.
Great.
All right, I think, Lee, you have time for one more question before you run
Sure.
back into the Emergency Operations Center?
Yes.
Lee.
Great. So this viewer says, thank you for broadcasting, Mayor, Chief, and Lee. In the event San Jose does have to evacuate, is there a plan in place?
Yes, there is. So we have a pretty robust overview plan, and then depending on how the weather and the fire continues to evolve tonight, depending on the area of San Jose, we have specific ways we can alter that to meet the needs of that part of the city. So a lot of city resources are staged within East San Jose right now to meet those needs, depending on the areas that arise.
And I should note that, this is a moment when we recognize we're just going to have to be very nimble at a time when a lot of firefighters have been out there for multiple days and they're very tired. But we know that if there's new lightning storm, it may mean there's a new front in this battle against the fire. And so the plans we have currently are protecting the eastern part of our city, and that's where we're focused for all the obvious reasons. But we may need to come up with new plans. And I think this is an emergency operations center that has been very nimble in the past in dealing with fast changing conditions. And we are anticipating that conditions may change in a moment's notice. So we're going to be focused. Lee, thank you so much for taking time away from the Emergency Operations Center to join us today. We'll be back tomorrow with more updates for our residents, and I appreciate everyone taking the time. I know we did not get to nearly all the questions today. We'll do our best to answer some of those online, or as many as we can, and we'll continue to get information out in the hours ahead. Thanks, Lee, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor.
Please stay healthy.